Discipline fails when you treat it as a goal instead of a lifestyle. If you've ever started strong with a new habit only to abandon it a few weeks later, you are making this exact mistake. This cycle of motivation, action, and failure is why 92% of New Year's resolutions fail by February. But there's a small group of people who seem to never struggle with discipline at all. For them, discipline isn't something they force themselves to do. It's simply who they are and how they live. I was stuck in that cycle of starting and stopping until I discovered how to make discipline my default state, rather than something I had to constantly chase. So without further explaining, here's how to make discipline a lifestyle, not just a goal. Identity first, actions second. The first thing that separates people who live discipline from those who just attempt it is how they think about themselves. Most people approach discipline by focusing on their actions first. I need to go to the gym. I need to study more. I need to stop wasting time. But the top 1% focus on their identity first. I am a disciplined person. I am someone who follows through. I am the type of person who does what needs to be done. This might sound like a small distinction, but it completely transforms how discipline feels and functions in your life. When you say, I need to go to the gym, you are creating external pressure. You are implying it's something separate from who you are, something you must force yourself to do. But when you shift to, I'm a person who prioritizes fitness, the gym becomes a natural expression of your identity. It's no longer about forcing yourself. It's about being consistent with who you already are. Research shows that people who view an action as part of their identity are far more likely to maintain that behavior long term compared to those who view it as a separate goal. I noticed this transformation when I stopped saying I need to be more disciplined with my content creation and started saying I'm a consistent creator. Before this shift, every video felt like a struggle. I'd procrastinate, find excuses, and often have to use pure willpower to get it done. After adopting the identity first approach, creating content became a natural expression of my identity. Here's how you can make this shift in your own life. First, identify the disciplined person you want to become. Get specific. What does this person value? How do they make decisions? What's non-negotiable for them? Next, create 2 to 3 powerful I am statements that reflect this identity. For example, I am someone who prioritizes long-term growth over short-term comfort. Or I am the type of person who keeps commitments to myself. This statement should feel aspirational but not completely unrealistic. Implement a daily identity priming ritual. Spend 2 to 3 minutes every morning reviewing your I am statements and visualizing yourself acting from this identity throughout your day. When faced with choices that test your discipline, ask yourself, what would a disciplined person do in this situation? This question activates your identity rather than just your willpower. Most importantly, take action that align with your new identity, even when you don't feel like it. Each time you act in alignment with your new identity, you strengthen it. But here's the thing, even with the right identity in place, most people still struggle because they mix the next crucial element of making discipline a lifestyle, which is environment design. Your environment will ultimately determine your discipline far more than your willpower ever will. Look around right now at your physical space. Is it designed to make discipline choices easy or hard? Most people try to force discipline in environments that actively work against them. They keep junk food in the house while trying to eat healthy. They keep their phone next to them while trying to focus. They surround themselves with distractions while trying to be productive. This creates constant internal battles that willpower cannot win long term. What separates the top 1% isn't superhuman willpower. It's understanding that discipline becomes a lifestyle when your environment makes discipline choices the path of least resistance. When I decided to make discipline my lifestyle, I didn't just try harder. I completely redesigned my environment to make discipline the default rather than the exception. I started with my digital environment since that was the biggest challenge for me. I removed most social media apps from my phone's home screen and installed an extension on my laptop that helps me focus, especially on YouTube. This eliminated thousands of micro decisions about whether to check notifications or scroll feeds. For my fitness goals, I made going to the gym as frictionless as possible. I laid out my gym clothes and essentials the night before, so everything was ready to grab on my way out the door. I applied the same principles to my nutrition by simply not keeping junk food around. By eliminating these temptations from my environment, I never have to rely on willpower to resist them. The results were dramatic. I wasn't suddenly more motivated or disciplined. I just needed to make fewer active decisions to do the right thing. Here's how you can redesign your environment to make discipline your default state. First, conduct an environment audit. Spend a day being hyper aware of every time your environment makes discipline choices harder? Does your phone distract you? Is junk food too accessible? Is your workspace cluttered? Next, apply the proximity principle. Make discipline choices closer and undisciplined ones farther away. Want to read more? Keep books on your nightstands and your phone in another room. Want to eat healthier? Put fruit on the counter and don't keep the junk foods you crave in the house. For digital discipline, start with minor changes. Moving distracting apps off your home screen. Try using focus mode for just 30 minutes at a time. Turn off notifications during your most important tasks. As these small changes become comfortable, you can gradually increase the digital boundaries that work for you. Consider the people in your environment too. Research shows that we tend to adopt the habits of the 5 people we tend to compare ourselves to the most. Are the people you admire or measure yourself against making discipline easier or harder? Choose your influencers carefully, both online and offline. Create dedicated discipline zones, physical spaces where only discipline activities happen. Your desk is only for productive work and never for entertainment. This single-purpose environment creates powerful mental associations over time. When your environment supports your discipline, willpower becomes your backup system rather than your primary engine. If you are finding this helpful so far, a quick tap of the subscribe button will help more than you know. However, even with the perfect identity and environment, there's still a critical phase most people fail to push through: the consistency threshold. You must cross a specific threshold before discipline becomes a lifestyle, and most people quit just before reaching it. This threshold is where discipline actions stop feeling like work and start feeling like your natural way of being. Understanding this threshold is crucial because it explains why so many discipline attempts fail despite strong starting motivation. Everyone knows someone who went all in on fitness for a few weeks and then completely abandoned it. Research shows it takes anywhere from 18 to 254 days to form a habit, with an average of 66 days. But the lifestyle transformation we are talking about takes even longer, usually 4 to 6 months of consistent action before discipline becomes your default state. The problem is that most people have unrealistic expectations. They think transformation should happen in days or weeks, not months or even years. When it doesn't, they assume their approach isn't working or they are not cut out for discipline. So they quit, often just weeks before they would have reached this crucial threshold. I experienced this myself with content creation. At first, making videos was actually easy and exciting, but as I learned more about quality content and started trying to make every video perfect, that's when I began to struggle. The pressure I put on myself created resistance, but I had committed to consistent posting, so I pushed through. And after several months, something unexpected happened. The resistance began to fade. Creating content wasn't something I had to force myself to do anymore. It started to feel like a natural part of my routine. The same pattern occurred with my morning routine. Waking up at 4 a.m. was a daily battle for about 3 months. But around the 4th month mark, something shifted. My body started waking up naturally at that time, sometimes even before the alarm. What's happening during this threshold period is fascinating. Your brain is literally rewiring itself, creating new neural pathways that make the discipline action more automatic. But this rewiring takes time and repetition. There are no shortcuts. Here's how you can push through to reach your own consistency threshold. First, enter any new discipline practice with a clear commitment to a time frame. Don't say, I'll try this and see how it goes. Instead, say, I'm committing to this for the next X amount of days, no matter what. Second, use the minimum viable consistency approach. Define the absolute minimum of your discipline actions that you will do every day, no matter what. For fitness, it could be just 10 push-ups. The goal is to maintain the consistency streak even on your worst day. Third, track your progress not by your results but by your consistency. Create a visual system for tracking your daily progress, like a calendar where you mark each day you maintain your discipline practice. Fourth, understand the struggle deep phenomenon. The period just before you reach the threshold is often when resistance feels the strongest. This increased resistance actually indicates your brain is actively rewiring. It's a sign that you are close to breakthrough, not that you should quit. Fifth, robust accountability systems for this threshold period should be created. This could be an accountability partner who checks in daily, a coach who holds you to your commitments, or public declarations that create social pressure to continue. Remember that this threshold period is temporary. You're not signing up for a lifetime of struggle. You are pushing through a specific adaptation period, after which discipline becomes significantly easier. Once you cross this threshold, discipline shifts from something you do to something you are. But there's still one more piece to this puzzle that most people miss entirely, which is habit stacking and triggers. The final element that transforms discipline from a goal to a lifestyle is creating a seamless flow of discipline actions throughout your day. Most people treat discipline actions as isolated events. Now I'll work out. Now I'll study. Now I'll eat healthy. Each action requires a separate decision, which means each action is another opportunity to make excuses or procrastinate. However, the top 1% create trigger systems where one discipline action automatically leads to the next, creating a continuous chain of positive behaviors with minimal decision points. This technique, called habit stacking, leverages what neuroscientists call neural chunking, your brain's ability to group sequences of actions into small units that require less conscious thought. I've completely restructured my life around these trigger chains, and it's been transformative for my discipline. Here's what my morning sequence looks like. My alarm triggers me to immediately make my bed. No thinking required. Making my bed triggers my personal devotion time. Finishing devotion triggers going to the gym for my workout. Finishing my workout triggers taking a shower. Showering triggers having breakfast and reading. Reading triggers my first focused work session of the day. By 8 a.m., I had completed 6 discipline actions, but I had only made one conscious decision to respond to my alarm. Everything else flows automatically from established triggers. The power of habit stacking is that once established, these behavior chains become so automatic that they can withstand changes in your environment or schedule. That's when discipline becomes your lifestyle rather than something you must constantly maintain through effort. Here's how you can implement effective habit stacking in your own life. First, identify your current automatic habits, things you do daily without thinking. These are your potential trigger points. Common examples include waking up, brushing your teeth, making coffee or tea, showering, meal times, arriving from school or work, getting into bed. Next, select small discipline actions you want to incorporate into your lifestyle. The key word is small. It should take less than 5 minutes initially. Examples include reading 1 page, doing 10 push-ups, drinking a glass of water, writing 3 sentences in a journal, 1 minute of meditation, setting out clothes for tomorrow. Then use the formula: after I current habit, I will immediately new disciplined action, to create deliberate connections between existing habits and new actions. The word immediately is crucial. There should be no gap where decision making can enter. Start with just 1 to 2 habit stacks until they become solid. Then you can gradually expand. Trying to implement too many at once is a common mistake that leads you to committing to none. The key is absolute consistency in the sequence. Follow the exact same sequence every day until it becomes automatic. The real magic of habit stacking is that it creates a discipline momentum effect. Continuing with the next one becomes much easier once you're in motion with your first disciplined action. When you master habit stacking, discipline stops being a series of difficult choices and becomes simply how you live your life. The very definition of making discipline a lifestyle, not just a goal. But even with all these strategies, you will still face days when discipline feels impossible to maintain. In this video, I explained the mental shift that forces discipline to feel easy. Remember, the path is just to walk, and as always, I'm in your corner rooting for you.